Hello, and welcome to the TV Enthusiast podcast, or not the podcast, actually. This is our first video series for the MCU and DC talk. We decided, instead of, we were talking before about doing like a DC one where we would talk about the Arrowverse, and then we just decided, you know what, they're on at the same time right now. Let's just do like a DC and Marvel. Let's break down the walls. Let the loving begin.
Let the loving begin. Yes.
So we're doing this right now. I think we're going to call this TVE versus Marvel and DC. So it has that comic book crossover vibe to it. And we're not going to talk so much about other DC kind of properties like, say, Gotham or iZombie. We're going to be talking specifically about Arrowverse-based stuff. And then we're going to be talking about MCU directly connected stuff. And then, so just basically those kind of two connected universes that are on TV at the same time. That's kind of the focus of this video series. And this is our first episode.
Oh, nice. So we're going to be doing this like every week?
Yeah, we're going to figure out, I mean, we could keep doing this on Sunday or we could figure out another time to record, but this will be kind of a weekly thing. We're going to go over what's been going on in each of the shows.
Nice. We can't get anybody else for tonight?
No, for tonight it's just the two of us. I'm going to see if we can get Ed in maybe for some other ones. And Kat, she's kind of holding off on Arrow, so we won't be able to have her on without spoiling Arrow for her, and she's like super determined not to be spoiled on Arrow. So.
Right. Darn.
So we'll hold off on that, but when she does catch up, or maybe like we'll hit a week where Arrow just kind of wasn't all that interesting, and we're not going to talk about it, and then we'll kind of have her on to talk about the other shows at that point. But now let's kind of get started with things. So I thought we'd kick off with The Flash. Now, if you listen to the podcast that we do, the weekly set, which is available at TVEnthusiast.com and also on YouTube, where this video is available right now. If you're familiar with that, then we've already kind of talked about a lot of the material in The Flash in this episode, the first episode of the season. But otherwise, we're going to talk about it again just because the podcast is the podcast and this is this.
Right.
So we have to kind of, keep them on their own. So the episode we're talking about here is called The Man Who Saved Central City. It introduces us to cross-dimensional metahumans. And just cross-dimensional stuff in general, really. I mean, we had a hint of it at the very end of the season finale, and now we're starting to get people from other dimensions. Most notably of those is we have Jay Garrett, who's a Flash from a different dimension, and Zoom, who's just kind of being referred to, and we haven't seen yet.
We haven't seen Zoom yet. My theory is Zoom is the reverse Flash from a different dimension. So we got the Flash from our dimension and reverse Flash from our dimension.
So it's kind of like a way for them to bring the actor back.
If they're doing it right, it should not be Tom Cavanaugh at all. No. Because Zoom is a different character completely from Eobard Thawne.
Yeah. But if it's an Eobard Thawne from a different dimension or something.
Yeah, I mean, they could do that, I guess.
I mean, what they previewed from the, like you mentioned, that they showed the scientist girl. I can't think of her name right now. They showed her in as like a villainous version of herself. And we had speculated, well, that's like a her from a different dimension.
Oh, that could be her from that dimension, yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. Cross-dimensional stuff, it's interesting on TV. Did you watch Fringe?
I watched like the first season, and then I kind of fell off of it.
Well, Fringe got really heavy into the cross-dimensional stuff, like 2 different versions of different people and stuff. So I'm wondering, Flash is kind of more fun, where Fringe was kind of taking it more seriously and dramatically. So I'm wondering how the Flash is going to handle these different universes, and if there are going to be like the same people from multiple universes, if that's going to occur or not.
Right. Well, we know that the main villain in the first episode is also from this alternate universe, apparently.
Yeah.
Because they found his counterpart in Barry's universe dead.
Well, plus the villain of this episode, Atom Smasher, they had said that they're all like, why do you look just like this other guy?
Yeah.
And he was saying at home, which is like, well, he's probably the other universe version of the same guy that, is seen there.
Yep. And then at the end, he mentioned Zoom. He mentioned Zoom sent him to kill Barry, which makes you wonder, who is Zoom? Why does Zoom want Barry dead? And also, if Zoom is the reverse Flash from another dimension and Jay Garrick is the Flash, then why doesn't Zoom want Jay Garrick dead? Why is he going after Barry all of a sudden? So that's kind of an interesting question, right?
Plus, there's the whole deal in the season finale of the first season with when he saw the helmet come through the portal when Reverse Flash.
Oh yeah.
He said, "That's my cue to leave. Like I gotta get going now."
Yeah, like I gotta get going now. This is bad news. I saw that kind of like as an, oh crap, there's another Flash coming. I better get out of here before that happens.
That shows he has some awareness of that, though.
Yeah, that does. Yeah, that does.
So that's kind of interesting, and so we'll have to see kind of how it pieces together. If it's done well, it'll be kind of a cool little puzzle you'll get the little different pieces, and by the end, you're going to be like, oh, that's how it all connects.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm hoping for.
I can't wait to see Zoom proper. That's going to be really interesting.
We know it's Candyman who's voicing him, but that's because they don't want to reveal who it is yet.
Right.
So they said that just because he's voicing him, that doesn't mean that that's who's playing him. That's just who's voicing him in his, I guess, distorted voice, or the way his voice is presented initially. Is being done by the actor who played Candyman in the Candyman movies.
Oh, okay. That's going to be interesting. He has a very distinctive voice.
Yeah. So they just want to get that kind of sinister tone,
that sinister tone. Now, it's wondering, in the comic books, in the Flash comics, Zoom is actually a guy by the name of Hunter Zolomon, who was basically like Wally West's best friend, and he worked on the police force, and then something horrible happens to him, and he comes back as Zoom, and he basically decides that he wants to make Wally West a better hero. He wants to make Wally West as good of a Flash as Barry Allen, and so basically he takes on the form of Barry Allen's greatest nemesis, Eobard Thawne, and basically sets out to make Wally's life a living hell, with the objective that if Wally goes through all these horrible things, it'll make him stronger and a better hero. Yeah.
So many Flashes, so many different
things. But the fact that Zoom is was Wally's friend who worked on the police force, something horrible happened to him, that kind of sounds like Eddie, doesn't it?
Yeah, who's also connected to Thawne,
He was also connected to Thawne. And so it'd be kind of make sense if this was somehow Eddie.
Yeah, or maybe it's an Eddie from a different dimension or something like that.
Or something like that, yeah, exactly. That's an interesting possibility.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. So we talked before, when we talked about The Flash, we were talking about how one of the better things about The Flash in this episode, and just kind of in general, and something that we're kind of hoping that sticks with the show, is how the show can be self-aware, and it can kind of make little references. And we used Cisco as our kind of leading a horse on that matter, where we're talking about some of the little comments Cisco's made, like, nobody is going to come through that door, and then like, seriously.
I love that part because it's so self-aware. Because last season, one of the biggest criticisms was like, people mocked the show for the fact that people just kept walking right into Star Labs, like walking right into their office where they're doing like things like literally. I think Iris finds out Barry is the Flash by literally just walking into Star Labs and seeing him in the Flash suit. And it's like, it's so ridiculous, So you start to think, does this place have any security? And so now, like, the entire first episode, the show is being self-aware and poking fun at the fact that, yeah, that happened. And so at the end scene, that scene is so funny because the show has been so self-aware about that. And they know, and the writers just know, well, we're going to do it again, but let's just like kind of poke fun at ourselves in the process while we just go ahead and do it anyway.
Yeah, that was, I really like that aspect. The one thing in contrary to that was like the bummer of the episode was Barry himself being such a Debbie Downer the whole episode.
I know. He was like, oh, I didn't save the world. I didn't save not Star City. I didn't save Central City. That wasn't me. I don't need no key to the city. I'm like, oh my God, you are not Oliver Queen. Stop it.
Broody McBrudenstein.
I know. You cannot brood on the level of Oliver Queen. Don't even try.
Thankfully, that looks like that was kind of resolved within the first episode. So now we just kind of hope that they've moved past this broody bullshit and get on with the kind of fun hijinks that we all want to see in the Flash.
Yeah, we all want to see from the Flash. Yeah, definitely. For sure. Oh, my word. I guess that brings us to Arrow. Well, the thing
I wanted to bring up one thing on the Flash, the one real downer, which we talked about on the podcast. If you want to hear us talk about it more, because I'll just bring it up briefly. We talked about it on the last podcast, but yeah, that exit for Barry's father, still just so lame.
Yeah, that's right.
So lame.
That was so lame. It's like, hey, I'm free now. Forget this place. Bye. And he was like, oh,
we're gonna go to a ball game, Pops? No, you're gonna live on your own. Bye.
Yeah, and it was like so lame. He's like, oh, it seems you already have a family. That's like, wow, thanks, Dad. Well, you don't need me. You have friends.
So I don't have to stick around and hang out with you. Yeah.
I know, right? Oh, that was so lame, but I get it because they probably can't get the actor to renew his contract or whatever. So
yeah,
they get rid of, and I liked that they actually like resolved his storyline. Like they got him out of jail instead of just saying, "Well, we lost the actor, so we won't ever be going back to him again." And
Barry just forgot about him.
Yeah, just leaving him in jail forever. Like the kid in the Brady Bunch who goes up the stairs and never comes back.
Yeah.
It's like,
so yeah, let's move on to Arrow. If you want to hear us going on in more detail about us being upset about his dad and his exit, you can check out our podcast. Episode 28 of our podcast, which is available on our site, TVEnthusiast.com. But now we're going to move on to Arrow, and we're going to be talking about the season premiere episode, Green Arrow, in which Olicity is enjoying a great suburban life.
Oh, yeah.
But Felicity has failed this omelet.
This was painful. That gag was painful. Oh my God. I was like, I was like, we're doing this. This is real. This is
Oliver seriously like trading cooking tips with some middle-aged woman.
Oh my god, that was the worst scene in the entire episode. I was like, why is this happening? Why is this?
It's so bad.
It was so bad.
We also got this weird change in character for Felicity, who we find out has been helping these people all along after all of her insistence of getting away from it. Getting Oliver out of it. Then she's like, come on, Oliver, let's get back into it. It's completely away from her old moralizing ways from last season.
Right, yeah.
But, she doesn't have to moralize anymore because everybody else on the team is moralizing Oliver now.
Oh, yeah, everybody's moralizing. even the detective who is in cahoots with the villain.
It's kind of like how we've talked about how True Detective was, what the standout thing of the first season of True Detective was Russ Cole. And then how season 2, they kind of ruined it by making everybody into Russ Cole.
Yeah.
It was the biggest problem with season 3 of Arrow was Felicity's moralizing. So they said, let's make everybody moralize.
I love that. Like, certainly, Laurel's dad sits there and gives Oliver this huge speech about bringing darkness into the city, blah, blah, blah. And then the end of the episode happens, and he's in cahoots with the villain. It's like a way to be a giant hypocrite.
Yeah, if he wasn't a big enough douche last season, now he's just trying to bring it to new levels.
I know. I was like, what?
Everyone be moralizing.
Yes. And I guess Oliver Queen is the Green Arrow now.
He officially referred to himself as that.
Yeah.
It's kind of disappointing a little bit. I was hoping they'd work up to that. But it's almost as if he did it just because his sister was calling herself the Red Arrow.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So it's like, you got Red Arrow, so I'm the Green Arrow.
But she's calling herself Red Arrow, but her nickname is Speedy because she was like, I'm Red Arrow. Why can't she was like, since I'm like I'm Red Arrow, right? And then Dig goes like, Red Arrow is when you make a left turn or something, or something like that. And then he's like, he's like, you're Speedy.
Yeah.
She's like, oh. Like, yeah. So,
but it's just like now we have the Red Arrow and the Green Arrow, and it's just I don't know. I was hoping they were kind of working up to something better. At least they had some kind of a reason that they're still playing on the idea that the Arrow died.
Right. Yeah. They're still. Yeah. The Arrow is dead, and the Green Arrow has risen.
Yeah.
Also, I loved Neil McDonough in this episode. He makes a great villain.
It's Damien Dark.
As Damien Dark. I don't know if you watched Justified.
Yeah.
Season 3 Justified. He was a fantastic villain in that. I think Neil McDonough just plays great villains, and this was no different.
He's just a great character actor in general. I love him in any kind of bigger, larger than life type character.
Oh yeah, like in Agent Carter too.
Yeah,
as Dum Dum Dugan, who's
great. So he gets to play on both sides of the comic book fence, I guess.
Yeah,
one of the few.
One of the few, and but as Damien Dark, I mean, yeah, he was great. Of course, we know that Damien Dark was a disciple training in the League of Shadows next to Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, it was the last Ra's al Ghul trained with him under the Ra's al Ghul before that.
Right.
And then
so basically he knows a lot of the secrets and tricks of the League of Shadows. He has some of the Lazarus
it's like we never saw Ra's al Ghul do anything mystical either,
Yeah, that was
stuff at the water.
Yeah, besides stuff with the water. Yeah, that was kind of disappointing last season because Ra's al Ghul has a mystical element to him too. And they didn't
But
really
they did bring it in with
that.
Damien Dark.
Yeah.
So we got to see him do quite a few things. I mean, just grabbing the guy and draining his life away, but also stopping arrows in midair and throwing them back.
Right, yeah.
We got to see him do quite a bit of mystical stuff, which I think largely, and they referenced it directly as mystical. They said like, "Oh, this isn't, this isn't metahumans. This is mystical," is what Oliver said. I think this is a lot of it. This is kind of laying the groundworks for Constantine to show up.
Oh yeah, it's definitely laying the groundworks for Constantine to show up, because Oliver is dealing with this mystical bad guy, and he's going to need some help on that front. And just so happens Constantine deals with that stuff as part of his job.
He's only going to be in one episode, but I feel it's going to be an influential presence for that episode.
This is going to be so great because Constantine wants nothing to do with superheroes or anything. Oliver probably doesn't want anything to do with him. They are both such, I don't know, standoffish type people that they would really not get along well. At all. And so that's going to be an amazing thing to see.
We'll have to see how they write it, how they pull that all together. Because it's like you said, like I just could not imagine John Constantine and Oliver Queen like ever running in the same circles.
Oh no,
like, not even just like that, but I mean even in the crime side, like I just can't see them running in the same circle. So it'll be interesting to see how they put that together. I mean, they might make a huge mess out of it for all we know.
Yeah, it might make a huge mess out of it for all we know. I mean, well, because like for Constantine to get involved, he would actually have to have a good reason that's interesting to him. Not just, well, this guy has mystical powers and he's bad, can you help me? He's going to be like, nah, that's nothing to do with me. So there's got to be like something in it for him to get involved. So I'm kind of wondering what that is, and now I think I have to go and finish season 1 of Constantine to get a better grasp on that.
Is that available to stream yet?
Oh, I don't know. I hope it is.
I'll have to check that out. I don't think I've seen it on Netflix unless it just popped up a while ago.
No.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe it's still on Hulu for all we know. I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
I guess that's part of the DCU TV universe now, so.
Kind of. It's going to be the same actor, but it's not directly. Did you hear, like I said we weren't going to talk about Gotham, but did you hear that?
I'm not going to talk about Gotham. Poor Gotham gets left out of this.
Well, just because it's not in the universe. But did you hear about the casting for that they just talked about today?
Oh, Paul Rubens. Yeah, that totally makes sense because the guy.
And he played him in Batman Returns too. He played the same character.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he played Penguin's father in.
That was so long ago. I just saw that casting. I thought that totally makes sense because the guy they got playing the Penguin looks like Paul Rubens already. So it's like the first thing I think of when I see that guy is Paul Rubens. So
yeah, but Paul Rubens actually played him in the first movie, and not the second Tim Burton Batman movie.
Okay, I totally do not remember that.
It was all like
I remember
it was all like Penguin origin stuff. Like he was long gone before
I remember. Yeah, I remember most of the origin scene and stuff. I remember, but I just do not remember Paul Rubens. But then again, I was a kid when I watched that, so who knows?
and that character was created for Batman Returns. It wasn't a character in the comic book.
Right, no.
And so he's reprising that role in Gotham, but it's like he's reprising that role, but it's not the same, It's not as if Batman Returns is part of the same canon. It's like its own separate canon still, but he's still playing the same role. So it's that kind of weird situation where I think that's going to be similar with Constantine and Arrow, where he's still playing Constantine. He'll probably have the same wardrobe, everything, the same. They might even make a few references to it, but they're not going to hold it up as canon, I don't think.
Okay, right. Well, who knows? I mean, who knows? They might hold it up as canon.
It'd be cool if they did.
It'd be cool if they did, because they did have a scene early in like the first episode of Constantine where they had Dr. Fate's helmet. And if that's canon with the DCU TV, then that means Dr. Fate is canon, and they can bring that in. So hopefully.
We'll have to see what they do. They're kind of in a weird, messy situation with the DC connected universe on TV. I mean, because not only they have, like we mentioned, Gotham, which is not canon with everything else, but you also have Supergirl coming up,
right?
Which is produced by the same people that produce Arrow and Flash, so the same team involved in it. But it's like being questioned whether it'll be in the same continuity or not, and it's basically right now being said no, don't expect it. Well, it's kind of like if CBS plays ball, then maybe. It's kind of like the answer right now.
They're in a weird position right now where they're like DC is saying, oh, we want to have all these properties on TV. We want to have, like, people make all these shows and stuff, but we don't necessarily want them to be, they don't all have to be the same continuity, because we want creators to have the freedom to tell whatever stories they want to tell, not bound by what another show or movie is doing.
They also have the cross-network politics stuff going on with, like, CBS doesn't necessarily want it to be connected
like
to the DC universe because they want to do their own thing.
In Marvel's case, they don't have that problem because most of their shows, network stuff's going to be on ABC, and then their stuff is going to be on Netflix. And they worked it out in their dealings with Netflix right up front, and because it's connected to this much more popular movie universe, Netflix is going to be like, okay, yeah, we're cool with that. Yeah, right.
To that. Whereas in, like, as popular as, we think like the Flash and Arrow are, that's nothing. Like, the best ratings that the Flash or Arrow ever got would be like, room for cancellation at CBS.
And besides, it would be that at CBS.
They're expecting much bigger things from Supergirl, and so they would.
Besides that, CBS already has a stake in the CW, so it's like they're getting revenue from those shows. Well, the thing about Flash and Arrow is, like, those are Warner Brothers produced shows, so they're not the shows on the network that CBS is producing.
Yeah.
So I guess, like, CBS is thinking, why should we give those shows more?
Yeah. Well, I think the big thing is that they're looking for a larger audience, so they don't want the stigma attached that, like, you have to watch these ones to get this.
Right.
They want people to go in going like, okay, this is its own thing. And part of doing that means kind of distancing themselves from that. Now, if they'll ever let it cross over or not, who knows? But that's up to CBS, it seems.
And also, you got the hamstringing again with stuff like which we saw at the end of Arrow. Oh, we have to talk about this because the end of Arrow. Dun, dun, dun.
Who's in the grave?
That's
the big question. I mean, the one that looks obvious to me, of course, if you check out our site, you can see My Comics With Me. You can see who I think's in the grave.
Yes. Read that comic book. Read that comic. It will shock you to your core. I don't think you'll expect this speculation, but it makes total 100% sense, especially since they reference it early on in the episode, and it's kind of a blink you'll miss it reference, and it ties it all together.
Connect Them All number 8.
Yes.
On our site, so you can access that. It's right now. It's on the front page, but if you're checking this out later, just go on the top of the website. There's like some little tabs that have like the weekly set and connect them all. And if you go to connect them all, it has all of them listed. It's number 8 of connect them all. Is the one we're referencing here.
So, but I guess the number one choice, what seems obvious, is it's Felicity. And let's run down the clues. Let's run down the clues. Biggest clue is Felicity is not there with Oliver grieving.
Yeah.
Felicity being Oliver's number one, you would think if it wasn't her, she'd be standing right there.
Which is exactly why I think it is not her.
Well,
I think that's the total red herring that they planted, and I think what they're going to do when they reveal it is it's going to be like there was a big event that happened, somebody died, and then Felicity was injured.
Oh yeah.
And so she's like in the hospital recovering at this time, so Oliver's able to be at the graveside or whatever. But
another
possibility to give him an out.
Another possibility is it's Diggle.
Yeah. Could be Diggle. It could also be his sister.
It could also be his sister. Can't be anybody else but those three, because Oliver is not going to have such a strong reaction to, say, Malcolm Merlin biting it.
No!
or even Detective Lance.
Yeah. Well, if it was Detective Lance, then it would be what's her name there? His daughter.
It would be his daughter. It could be Laurel.
Yeah. Could be Laurel.
If it was Laurel, why isn't Detective Lance there? Or unless they're hiding that from him too.
It's both of them together in the one grave.
Yeah. But Oliver's reaction was like a very strong. They took somebody very close to him and not just somebody on the periphery. So
the obvious one, the one that it looks like it is Felicity.
Yeah,
that's what everything's pointing to.
Also, Barry showed up. Barry was.
So we know it's not Barry.
Yeah, we know it's not Barry.
Unless Barry's like a hallucination of Oliver. Oliver's having a hallucination of seeing his dead friend.
It's Barry. That means 6 months of Flash is canceled.
No, they have Jay Garrett on now. So
oh yeah, that's true.
It's just the Flash with Jay Garrett now.
But again, you saw that how they had to play with the fact that they're in the same continuity, because when Barry shows up, he says, sorry, I could be at the funeral, and Oliver just says, Zoom. Barry's like, yeah. And it's like. But also the fact that Barry shows up means that it's also somebody close to Barry. Like either that, or he just felt he should be there for Oliver to support him.
Again points to Felicity.
Yeah, it points to Felicity.
I'm actually really hoping it's Felicity. I know some people might hate me just for saying that, but
you are an evil man.
This is what I was like hoping for. In a different way, because they're gonna draw this out, But that was like my hope was I knew it wasn't going to happen that way. But like when we were talking on the podcast before about the Flash coming back before it started, if you remember, I kept saying that I wanted them to do the whole Bourne Identity thing, and like where the next movie started, and like his girlfriend dies in the first 2 minutes. And you're just basically getting a recap of what happened when she died. And then it just goes on from there. Like, oh, yeah, she's dead. Moving on, And that's kind of, I was like, God, I so hope that happens. That they're it just shows them kind of in their house and they're all nice in suburbia or something. And then some villain marches in and kills her. And then and then it cuts and it says 6 months later. And he's there, and they're like, Oliver, you need to get back on your feet.
Oliver.
But this is kind of what I hope for, just because I just really do not like this Felicity pairing. I think it feels kind of creepy in a way, because I always when he first encountered her, I'm like, oh, they got this kind of weird, she kind of has a crush on him, but he kind of sees her like a little sister. And she can kind of move on from that, she's going to kind of see him as a, big brother. And now instead it's like, he kind of ended up getting the hots for his little sister.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It just it does not ring true at all to me. It feels weird.
It feels weird, and it is weird. And it's like the weirdest couple on TV, and stop it.
And it doesn't, like, the actors have good chemistry together, but not that kind of chemistry. Like, they don't have equal footing chemistry. They have, like, Oliver as, like, an object of adoration chemistry.
Right, exactly. Like, she adores Oliver.
It just doesn't. Yeah, it just does not work well. Some people are going to adamantly disagree. I'm not like a straight up Felicity hater. I actually really liked her in the first 2 seasons, until like towards the end of the second season when it started moving towards the Felicity stuff. But it's just, it does not work, in my opinion, at least. Not everybody's going to agree with me. It just does not work. And I'd like to see it end, and if it takes killing her, then I'm fine with that. Yeah. Give him a little tragic moment, and then he can move on from it and do something else.
Yeah.
So let's move on from Arrow, because that's kind of the big last talking point for Arrow. If you want to check out the comic strip we mentioned, again, it's Connect Them All number 8. You can see it on our website, TVEnthusiast.com. But now we're going to move on to the Marvel segment of the show. And we have 2 episodes. We have 2 episodes of one show to talk about here, rather than 1 episode each of 2 shows. There's been 2 episodes so far of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
So we already kind of talked about the first episode in the podcast. Again, this isn't the podcast, so we're going to be talking about it again. The biggest highlight of the first episode of the season, Laws of Nature, was Fitz and his role in the whole thing, looking for Simmons. Great performance. Best performance so far in the entirety of the show. For his character and his desperation and the struggle of everything going on with that. I don't know if there's too terribly much more to talk about that episode, except that we had said before how much we liked that this is like such a different show than it was in its first 2 seasons. That this is now full on Marvel. This is
full on Marvel. Exactly.
Yeah, there's like, X-Men-esque like powers clashing.
I'm gonna say I thought the second episode of this season was more interesting than the first episode. First episode was okay, outside of like Fitz's breakdown, which was amazing.
Yeah.
It was a pretty bland episode. I mean, they found a guy who had powers.
They just got the tone right. That was the main thing with the first episode.
They got the tone right.
They said, okay, look, guys, here's the tone. And then us as fans got to watch it go like, okay, you got it. Thumbs up,
I think I liked the second episode because they directly got into nuts and bolts of the monolith, what it was all about. They brought back Peter McNichol, who is a fun character.
Our favorite nerdy Asgardian.
Yeah, our favorite nerdy Asgardian. We got Simmons back. We learned all about the monolith thing.
That was a great resolution, and in 2 episodes.
In 2 episodes, they didn't drag it out for an entire season.
Oh, and Simmons waking up with the little scrap metal or whatever she had.
Yeah.
And then crawling down and laying her head down on Fitz's lap and going to sleep. That was so awesome.
That was great. And then Ward was back, and he was awesome, trying to rebuild Hydra. And I loved
driving the car.
I loved every scene with Ward in it. Ward, since he became a villain, has become one of the best characters in the show.
Yeah, he's embracing it. Like in the most of the second season, in the evil parts of the first season, he was like this tortured maybe villain, and now he feels like he's more going for the theatrical villain.
He's fully on board the villain train now, and he is a very fun villain, whereas he was a very boring and bland hero. So in the first season, he was like boring.
We're gonna get something akin to Crowley from him. Crowley from Supernatural, I think.
Oh,
and
I think so.
He's a villain, but he'll occasionally work in a positive way with the heroes. But then he'll like turn around and do something like nasty behind their back.
And he'll do something nasty behind their back. The best thing this show ever did was make Ward a villain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's paying off in spades because every scene in this episode with Ward in it, I loved it. I love that story. I loved him actually fighting the son of Baron von Strucker, who was the head of Hydra and who was last seen killed by Ultron in Age of Ultron.
Mm-hmm.
Just awesome. Just awesome. So this second episode had so much packed into it and so much to love that this was probably one of the best episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for the entire season. Also, we got May. We learned where May went and what happened to her. So questions were answered. Stuff was resolved. And awesome things happened. This is how you do TV shows.
Yeah, this is for me, and this might also be controversial, but we've always kind of talked about how on the TV side, DC was doing better than Marvel. I feel that that's been shifting. Right. I think, what Marvel did with Daredevil topples everything DC's done on TV.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought Agent Carter was like right up there with the best of Arrow.
I thought the first season of Arrow was dark and gritty, and then Daredevil came out, and it just demolishes Arrow in that department. If you want,
and now Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was the weak chink in the armor, now it's shining. It's doing great.
Yeah, it's doing great. It's really coming to its own, and it's like, wow. I mean,
I honestly am enjoying Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. more than The Flash and Arrow.
I'm not going to go that far. Okay, I did enjoy comparing the first two episodes. I did enjoy S.H.I.E.L.D.'s first two episodes more than Flash's first two episodes. But I love the tone of The Flash, and I do love the direction that they're going in. And I still feel Flash has the potential to still be the best show out of the three for this season.
If they do it right. If they do it right. There's also a lot of room for them to critical error.
Right. But given their roadmap, where they're going, if they do it right, this should be amazing. Yeah. But, yeah, right now, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., as far as the episodes that have aired, is the best of the new season.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I'm loving it. That's what I'm looking forward to on Tuesdays.
I did think the new episode of Arrow was a big improvement over last season, despite it still having flaws carried over from last season. There's still enough that they did right. And like the villain is a lot more entertaining in this season right off the bat. Whereas Ra's al Ghul was never a very entertaining villain at all. Yeah.
I agree with you there too. I think that definitely Arrow is a big step up. But that's how much is that saying when season 3 of Arrow was really disappointing,
Yeah, right.
Totally. So it's an improvement over something that was really bad. It's still nowhere near season 2 quality. No,
season 2 was amazing.
Yeah.
They just need to bring Deathstroke back, I think.
Yeah. Well, he's going to be in the Shannara Chronicles now. So
yeah. The Chronicles of Shannara, which I saw like a big banner for that hanging up in the Javits Center at Comic-Con.
Did you watch the new trailer for it?
No, I haven't.
He's actually he's featured in the new trailer where he wasn't really in the first trailer.
Nice.
So they Manu Bennett. They have spent some time with him. So
basically, they aired the first episode of Jessica Jones at Comic-Con.
Yes, and that's our next topic to talk about here. Episode reactions have been very strong.
Oh yeah, episodes. This is a very adult show. Apparently.
Yeah,
even more so than Daredevil.
They said lots of strong depictions in regards to sexuality. They said it's also dark and violent. They said this is like, yeah, this is the most adult thing Marvel's done, basically.
Right, basically.
And which, I mean, you know, the last thing that you would say that about was Daredevil. It was the darkest thing Marvel done. But
and they say
so
shocking
it's
things
fitting
about
that,
Marvel
you know,
because it's graphic depictions of sex. And
yeah,
it's
no nudity, they said, but
no nudity though, but yeah, it's pretty graphic from what I heard. Yeah.
yeah, and we've been hearing that not just is it like violent and, you know, with a lot of sex and stuff, that it's just good. That
Yes.
people walked away wanting to watch more. Like, we need to see more of this. And that's interesting because I think Jessica Jones was, of the Marvel series, that was the one that was probably the most, like, people had more of a critical eye aimed towards.
Right. Well, it wasn't like a big name like Daredevil.
Yeah.
And it's also not like a traditional superhero show.
Yeah.
Deal.
Plus, it's like, this is Marvel's first, like, you know, besides Agent Carter, this is like their first like real kind of headlining female character.
And I guess it's not surprising that there's so much graphic adult content in this, because the original comic book Brian Michael Bendis wrote for Marvel, that was published under their Marvel Max line, which was Marvel's comic book line for mature, like M-rated or NC-17 rated comic books.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to see that they are taking that hard edge and fully translating it to the show, and they're not pulling back any punches.
I really like Kristen Ritter, who's playing Jessica Jones in the series. I really liked her in Breaking Bad. I was wondering how she would pull off a role like this. Nothing but complimentary comments about that as well.
Right.
Really good in the role. She nails it.
I think seeing her role in Breaking Bad showed that she could play this type of.
Well, we knew she could act. We knew she could act. The question was if she could pull off kind of like an action, hero type character.
Like the physicality of it.
And that seems to be settled. Like, people who have gone to see the first episode at Comic-Con have been saying nothing but positive things about her. So it's actually kind of interesting. I mean, going away from, the main topic of the show, which is the comic book shows, a lot of the stuff that there were a lot of shows that showed the first episodes and stuff at Comic-Con, and almost everything that showed got very positive attention, including stuff that had been getting very negative attention from like early trailers and stuff like the X-Files. So the X-Files got like a lot of negative attention.
I don't know if like all this positivity is just the buzz from Comic-Con,
because that could be an effect. Yeah.
Like, you're at Comic-Con, you're watching this surrounded by a bunch of people who are probably already predisposed to liking it. They're all wooing and cheering, and you kind of gain that,
And then you walk away and you kind of sober up. It's kind of like what was it, the episode 1 reaction of like Star Wars.
Where,
like, people who went and they lined up, they got out, they were like, that was awesome.
That was
amazing.
And
then like it took a while to set in.
It's like, wait a minute. What the hell? Midi-chlorians? Why did we think that was awesome?
It took a second for it to kick in, and that does happen with Comic-Con, it does happen. You get a lot of hype, and sometimes that, the excitement in the air can kind of blind you to the actual quality of the product. But that being said, I've been reading a lot of critical comments, from critics about both of those shows. Very positive reactions. And these were people that were very critical when they showed, like when they showed X-Files, like a trailer at San Diego Comic-Con, these same people that said that the actual episode was really good were very negative about the trailer that was shown at San Diego.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's interesting to see like how that's shifted, But I mean, that's off topic because that's X-Files and that has nothing to do with this comic book stuff.
Yeah,
but I just think it's interesting that this stuff has gotten such huge.
Unless they reveal like X-Files is part of the MCU now.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll show up in Once Upon a Time. You just need to use their Disney Infinity figures of them to unlock them.
You thought Marvel will cross over with Once Upon a Time. No, that won't happen. Once Upon a Time will just be revealed to take place in the MCU.
Yeah, it's all going to be just part of the MCU. This I'm at Once Upon a Time right now where they first went to like Wonderland.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh yeah, so they're talking about like multiple dimensions and stuff. So that's how it's going to cross over with the MCU.
Oh yeah, there you go. It's all multiple dimensions.
Yeah, it's
So I'm looking forward to, and we're just a little over a month away from that premiere too.
Oh,
so Jessica Jones is almost here. It's amazing. Our second Netflix show, getting rave reviews. I'm super excited to see it. I'm excited to see it more because it's conceptually so different from anything that Marvel has done in the film and TV space so far. This is not your traditional superhero show.
Definitely. Yeah.
Nobody is going to be dressing up in tights. In fact, in this show, the main character has already been there, done that, and does not want to go back to that. So
yeah. It's going to do heavily with things like trauma related to the idea of superheroics and where that can lead. So it's really fascinating. I'm really interested in it. They were also showing some stuff. I mean, not footage or anything of like talking about Daredevil second season and just more about what they're doing. It's just everything looks so good on that side. So looking forward to more Netflix Marvel, I guess I could call it.
Netflix Marvel. Yeah.
But yeah, Jessica Jones was of all the ones when they announced the shows that were coming, that was the one I was most interested in. But at the same time, it was also the one I was most worried about. I'm like, this is the one that they could ruin. Yeah,
it was the one they could most easily ruin if they didn't nail the tone right, if they didn't get the story right. There's still no indication that won't happen, but early response is positive.
At least in the first episode.
At least in the first episode.
So yeah, that's kind of what we have to say about that. I mean, there isn't really much else to talk about MCU-wise. And we covered the DC Universe stuff, so that pretty much brings us to an end there.
When does Supergirl premiere?
Oh, let me see if we have that on our schedule here. Here, kill some time for us, Vamp, while I'm looking up.
Okay. Kill some time. So I mean, well, Supergirl we don't know if that's going to be part of the official DC TVE yet. It is vague, and nothing's been decided there. So it's going to be like this kind of. It could be if you imagine it to be, but we're not going to confirm anything until later. Maybe not. Who knows?
It's all in CBS's court. Supergirl premieres on October 26th.
Supergirl. Okay.
So that's even sooner than Jessica Jones.
So I'm wondering, should we talk about that in this podcast, or if
it has the potential to cross over? It's from the same producer, so I think we should talk about it when it comes up.
Okay.
I mean, if we're not interested, then after the first episode or something, I don't see any reason to linger on it. But
yeah, right. If we're just torturing ourselves watching this, then drop it definitely.
So maybe what we'll do is the week that premieres, we won't talk about Arrow, and we'll bring Kat on.
Right. I'm not going to torture myself for any podcast or video. If Legends of Tomorrow is an unbearable mess, I will not watch that just to be able to talk about it.
We'll just as far as TVE is concerned, we'll just make that a non-canon.
Yes. Yeah. Although I'm
That other fan fiction story that we just ignore.
Yeah, fan fiction story we just ignore. Although I'm totally expecting Legends of Tomorrow to be completely awesome. So, yes.
That again, very positive reactions from New York Comic Con. They didn't show an episode, but the panel everyone seemed to be really into. So
apparently they showed a sizzle reel that revealed who. Oh my God, the bad guy is. And now I'm spacing on his name because Vandal Savage.
They mentioned that in the first the little like fake trailer that wasn't actually any footage from the show.
Right, no, but they actually like in the sizzle they actually show Vandal Savage.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah, you get to see him apparently for the first time.
I'll have to wait for that to leak.
yes, definitely. Apparently, you also get to see Zoom in this sizzle reel as well
for
Flash.
Oh, is it like a separate one for Flash?
I don't know. I think it's just a sizzle reel that's like a bunch of scenes from the upcoming seasons of all three of those shows.
I'll have to make sure and see if we can watch that, if it's available, and if it is, then we'll talk about it a little bit.
I think IGN posted it.
Okay, then it is available. So we'll be talking about that next week, along with the next episodes of each of those shows.
Yeah, I just saw it when we started this podcast, and I was like, oh, I can't really stop the podcast just to watch this and bring it up.
We'll just talk about it next week. So if you hear this, I mean, this New York Comic Con is currently going, it just kind of ended, I guess. So there's stuff that's just continuously coming out that we're going to miss, and we'll just pick that up next week and talk about it. So if you're eager to hear any discussion about that, don't worry, we're not skipping it. We'll talk about it next week.
So apparently Bryan Cranston revealed the Marvel villain that he would most like to play.
And who is that?
Well, he responded, "Who do you think?" So I'm going to give you a guess first.
Is this we're talking MCU or are we talking just Marvel period?
Oh, come on. That's cheating. Don't do that.
No, I'm just saying was he referring to when he mentioned who it was? Is he talking about a character that's already claimed by Sony or Fox, or is he talking about?
He's talking about Marvel in general.
Okay.
So like anything Marvel.
Doom?
No. He wants to play Mr. Sinister from the X-Men.
Oh.
Yeah. That's
I could see that, yeah.
Yeah.
He must have done that at the Super Mansion panel.
Yep, it was at the Super Mansion panel. How did you guess?
Well, you see, Will, I deduced that.
It was, yeah, according to the story on IGN. I'm trying to find that trailer now. Darn it.
Well, we'll watch it and we'll talk about it next week. But I'm just going to kind of wrap us up right now. Thank you, everybody, for watching. You can follow me on Twitter at Tyson Gifford on Twitter. You can see the spelling right here. Right here. You can follow William Rohrig here on Twitter at Voxel Hero.
Yes.
VOXELHERO, right?
Yep.
And you can check out our site, TVEnthusiast.com. You can see the comic we were just talking about, the other comics we've done. You can check out our podcast, The Weekly Set, which you can subscribe to through any podcast agent, iTunes, Pocket Cast, whatever you use. You can subscribe to our RSS feed for that. And that's all available on our site as well. You can check our YouTube channel. There's a link to it on our site. They have all of our podcasts are up on the YouTube channel, as well as all the videos we've done for MCU and DC. You know, this new one we're starting, but we also did, you know, separate videos talking about the MCU and DC's TV universe before. We also did all of season 5 of Game of Thrones, where we did episode by episode discussions, and we did the final season of Hannibal, which is on there as well. So if you are a Fanable, you should check out our Hannibal discussion, Dinner with Hannibal, which we changed the name to Art Appreciation with Francis Dollarhide, just because the last arc changed dramatically kind of the context of the show. So yeah, check all of that out, TVEnthusiast.com. Thank you everybody for watching. Night.